than the 6 years of brutal Nazi occupation. Hitler's megalomaniacal dream of a master race ruling over Europe had swung into action. But while Allied bombs were focused on Berlin, his military machine moved underground. And it was fueled by slaves who labored in weapons factories right in the heart of the Czech Republic. Today, as visitors walk along its cobblestone streets, very few realize they're walking on top of Prague's darkest secrets.
I'm Don Wild, and I'm in Prague, capital of the Czech Republic. Walking these streets, it's hard to believe that for over 1,000 years, this was a bloody battleground. But when the Iron Curtain fell just 20 years ago, it reopened this city and its turbulent past to the world. Even so, what we see up here hardly tells the whole story. It's what's down there, sealed up and forgotten below ground, where the scars of the city can be found. All around Prague, there's evidence of a dark side. Hidden communist labor camps, medieval torture chambers, and secret subterranean caves that may actually prove the existence of Hitler's infamous doomsday device. Even the locals here don't realize how much is hidden beneath their streets, but we're going underground to find it.
By 1941, the Nazis had occupied Czechoslovakia for 2 years and set up concentration camps around the entire region. Hundreds of thousands died. The rest suffered from disease, torture, or extremely harsh working conditions. Most of these prisons were built above ground, including one just 38 miles outside Prague, called Terezín. But as harsh as this prison was up above, it was only the beginning. Hundreds of prisoners were taken from Terezín to a subterranean weapons factory, a deep, dark mine that is still hidden beneath the earth. It was manned by slaves and became the heart of the Nazis' weapon production. Even today, it still hides one of Hitler's last secrets.
This is the Terezín concentration camp, about an hour north of Prague. Near the end of World War II, hundreds of Jewish prisoners were taken from here every day and forced to work in an underground Nazi weapons factory just outside of this town. Few people know this place even exists, but there's a guy there who's going to take me in.
When the Nazi occupation began, they turned this desolate region of quarries and mines into top-secret underground weapons factories. Thousands of prisoners slaved in this subterranean concentration camp, and there was virtually no way out. Today, the dark secrets of other concentration camps have been uncovered, but very few know about this crumbling part of Prague's Nazi past. I contacted Václav Vacek.
Hi, Adam. How you doing?
He's an urban spelunker and one of the very few who have explored this dangerous mine.
This is the old German factory, underground factory, codenamed Richard.
This is Richard. This is the entrance.
Yeah, this is the entrance. And it's not open to the public, so we have to get inside quickly.
Okay, sure. In this way?
So, yes, you can follow me.
Okay.
To keep its location secret, the factory went only by its codename, Richard. Today, it's still off limits to the public. In fact, this is the first time it's been shown on American TV.
So, Don, the mine is very wet, so you need to take these rubber boots.
Oh, thank you.
And it's also quite dangerous, so you need to wear your helmet.
So there is collapsing going on?
Yes, it's quickly collapsing, and it's worse and worse. After 10 or 20 years, maybe we will not be able to enter the mine at all.
So it's important to get these things mapped out.
Because it's a big piece of history.
Sure. So what do we do if there's a collapse?
Well, nothing. You have to hope that it will not collapse. So just follow me.
All right. Wow, look at this entrance. I mean, talk about foreboding. Wow.
We shouldn't spend much time here in this place because this place particularly is really dangerous.
This is really dangerous here, okay. I can see why. Look at this. This is the whole tunnel has collapsed right here.
Yes, please don't touch anything and go quickly.
Okay.
Altogether, the mine consists of 20 miles of tunnels, more than 200 feet underground. It has over 320 rooms, chambers, and corridors. And when the Nazis took control of it, they turned it into a top-secret underground weapons factory. But today, most of it is caving in. The cave-ins are caused when fractures begin to form in the brittle rock. Water and snow melts penetrate the cracks, dissolving the limestone. The fissures expand, and with the weight of a mountain pressing down on them, large chunks of rock come crashing down. The entire mine is being crushed by the mountain above, potentially destroying or hiding all evidence of the Nazi weapons factory.
And we just got right down there. You can see the entrance to the mine this way. And then straight back this way. This is like an intersection here. And I can touch the ceiling here.
Don't touch the roof.
Okay, okay. I've actually never been in a mine that is currently collapsing.
Vaclav and I had entered the mine here and snaked our way over rubble and debris for more than 200 yards. But this was just one small fraction of the mine. Today the mine has fallen out of use, and because it's no longer maintained, it will soon fall apart. But in the 1940s, after Allied bombing had destroyed many of their factories on the surface, it was the perfect place for the Nazis to keep their extensive weapons production safe. From 1944 to 45, 8,000 prisoners worked feverishly in extreme temperatures and terrible conditions to produce the Panther tanks that became the most important weapon in Hitler's lethal war machine. The Nazi army relied heavily on their fast, mobile, and lethal Panther tanks. Each one was powered by a 700-horsepower engine and had the incredible firepower of a 75mm cannon, one of the most powerful tank-mounted guns in the war. And it was almost impenetrable, protected by an 80mm steel plate. Since Czechoslovakia had always been a giant in manufacturing metal, Hitler and his generals easily converted these deep mines into factories like Richard.
You can imagine how busy this place was. Thousands of people working down here, building tanks. And here are the remnants of it, all over the place. Just leftover pieces of the whole effort to keep the war going. So I'm seeing in my mind big machines all throughout this gallery.
Yes, yes.
And workers operating them around
yes.
it, and would have been working 24 hours a day, I guess.
Yes, there are two shifts, day shift and night shift, and it was operating continuously.
Just as in concentration camps above ground, Hitler's SS henchmen watched over the prisoners' every move, ensuring that no one escaped and keeping them in a constant state of fear. Hundreds of them died here, toiling for the enemy, 200 feet underground.
Look at this artifact, the barbed wire here. They didn't care about their well-being down here. I mean,
yes.
People died down here.
Yes, there was a lot of accidents and many prisoners died here.
And what did they do with the bodies? I mean, that's 5,000 people you said died.
Yes, there was close to the mine. There used to be an old kiln, you know, for making bricks, and they rebuilt this kiln to crematory.
Less than a mile from this top-secret tank factory was a brick manufacturer. The prisoners who died or were killed in these tunnels were taken to the brick kiln and cremated.
It's a really scary and sinister place because you can almost feel all the prisoners working here, and I think it's a very dark place. And factories like this really helped Germany survive much longer than it probably was possible.
Right.
Up next, these suspicious cave-ins in the Richard Quarry could hide another of Hitler's dark secrets.
Intentionally collapsed this part of the cave in order to hide what?
And later, Hitler's doomsday device.
So here, right in the center of Europe, might have been the doomsday machine. Maybe it was real. Yeah, maybe fried real.
According to legend, the man who redesigned the famous astronomical clock in Prague's Old Town Square was blinded soon after the completion of his masterpiece by the same men who commissioned the clock so that a duplicate could never be made. Just an hour north of Prague, buried over 260 feet beneath the earth, are the remnants of a nightmarish underground Nazi factory, codenamed Richard.
Wow, look at this entrance. Talk about foreboding.
Almost no one is allowed down here because the mountain that once concealed this secret facility is now slowly crushing it.
Look at this. This is the whole tunnel has collapsed right here.
Yes, please don't touch anything and go quickly.
Okay.
I had already explored over a mile into the dangerous tunnels of Richard, but there was more. My guide, Vaclav Vacek, was one of the few daring urban explorers who could navigate the crumbling mine.
Okay, so now because it's easy to get lost, we have to check the map and then we will continue. Now we are in the room 37.
Oh, I see. So that every room is numbered?
Yes, so now we are in the room 37.
I see. So this whole network that we're looking at here, this is all the tunnel system.
Yes, this is all the tunnel system, and this is all the factory.
So all that we've done was only not even a quarter of the whole thing.
Yes.
We'd been in Hitler's secret tank factory for hours, and we'd only moved through a quarter of the entire complex. Even with a map, it's still difficult to navigate.
It's really big, and it's the reason why sometimes kids were lost here, because they were looking for adventure, and maybe at least 3 times police and firemen had been searching for.
Right. Give me an idea of how big this is.
Well, it's a network of almost more than 20 miles of galleries. It's huge.
And it's 150 feet of mountain over our heads.
Something like this.
And it just keeps on going down, huh?
Manufacturing weapons in underground factories like this one was a multi-step process. And like in any assembly line, slaves in the Richard factory made smaller parts for large weapons. The final step in the process was the inspection and testing of the tanks and weapons.
So, this is one of the rooms in the factory in which we really know the purpose. This was a partially shelter for the SS members, and also there were labs for the factory. There are 2 such rooms with pillars.
SS soldiers used this room for quality control. It was a lab facility for testing the weapons and tanks that were built inside this underground factory.
So far.
Yes.
Initially, the testing was rigorous, but as the war raging above ground was going badly for the Nazis, their factories began churning out poor quality weapons. The Panther tanks were the newest in a series of German tanks that had dominated the ground war in Europe, but their quality quickly declined, with engine failures, misfired cannons, and bursting fuel pipes. The prisoners may have had a hand in the weapons failure. Oftentimes, prisoners risked their lives to sabotage the weapons by faking welds, loosening screws, even urinating in the wiring. In some factories, less than 10% of the weapons functioned properly. All this was done under the close watch of the SS guards, who would torture, shoot, or hang prisoners for even the slightest infraction or suspicion of sabotage.
What are these objects here?
This is really interesting because you still can see the bags of concrete which was prepared for construction.
Oh, I see.
So this is the real.
So these got wet and they are rock hard now.
So this is the real patch of the Second World War.
Wow, yes. So they would have had bags and bags of cement in here, and and piles of gravel, and making these pillars, I guess, basically,
yes,
right?
Yes.
This room, which urban spelunkers call the Pillar Hall, was a weapons testing facility and a lab for the Nazis' Panther tanks that were built here during World War II. German engineers reinforced this room with pillars every 10 feet.
This is interesting thing that the room is in quite a good condition, but still you see that it a little collapses. You see the hole because the room is pressing like this, the rock is pressing like this, and the pillars.
So even as we speak, this entire mountain is pushing down, and it's gone down almost a foot here, if not further. It's broken through the floor. Every one of these pillars is like that.
You see that the pillars are properly made, that it's still in quite a good condition.
So they did a good job.
Yes.
The Nazis built these pillars to protect this subterranean factory from collapse. But ironically, these pillars may be the only thing protecting evidence of their reign of terror. The workers here were abused and starved. One survivor remembered eating grass and soft coal to dull the hunger pains. And there was little hope of escape.
Look at this. These little rooms over here. Ooh, it's really eerie, isn't it?
Yes.
In here, just to see.
Can you imagine that all the prisoners were here in this space?
Look at this. These little cells. No, all stalls, all toilet stalls. One after another. Just built right into the cave right here. Realized these were being used by concentration camp prisoners to build weapons for the Nazis. Well, that's the human factor. Brings it home.
60 years ago, these stalls may have been the only comforts the prisoners had throughout their brutal captivity. But in 1945, with Russian and Allied troops closing in, the Nazis were the ones who were trapped, and they desperately tried to destroy all evidence of this hellish factory.
You see the ash from papers, because when Germans were leaving, they probably burned some important papers in the toilets.
So they were destroying the records.
Yes. This is the real touch of the history, which still remains on the same place.
The secrets in those classified SS documents were burned and lost forever. But in Richard, there's another Nazi secret, hidden somewhere behind these collapsing walls.
What's back here? Oh, it's a collapse.
Yes, and this is a really interesting collapse. There is a legend, or maybe it could be true, that all the cavings are artificial and they were made by Germans and they were leaving to hide something.
So they would have intentionally collapsed this part of the cave?
Yes, maybe.
In order to hide what?
Well, no one knows, maybe Nazi gold.
Really? So it is actually speculated that
Yes.
back here there might be treasure of sorts,
Yes.
a Nazi
It would
gold
be
stash.
treasure.
Throughout the war, the Nazis looted the gold reserves of the countries they conquered. It's estimated that they stole the equivalent of 5.6 billion in today's dollars to finance their war effort. Protecting their stolen gold was key to continuing the war, and remote top-secret mines like Richard made the perfect hiding places.
Yeah, compared to the other collapses, this is a lot more
Yes,
substantial,
this is-
isn't it?
this is really, really
I mean, it's all just completely, like it's been bulldozed into here, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. You know, if you look into the map, you see that all the collapses on the all halls are in one line, which looks really suspicious.
Interesting.
If you chart these suspicious, artificial-looking collapses on a map of the Richard quarries, they appear to seal off an enormous section of the mine, indicating that the Nazis systematically blocked off certain tunnels. Because the mine is already unstable, removing that debris could make the entire tunnel collapse. So whatever is hidden behind the rubble will likely remain there forever.
There is also some evidence after Germans left. Some prisoners told that some trucks came and they had to carry some really heavy boxes inside of the factory.
Really?
Really? Yes. Maybe this is what could be hidden here, but no one knows.
So how much as a spelunker do you want to know what's back there right now?
Yes, I would be really interested what's behind, and it would be really nice to see it.
But not today.
Not today, and maybe never.
As the mine continues to cave in, there's little chance anyone will ever know what's hidden under the rubble. And soon, rubble is all that will be left of the Richard factory.
It could collapse almost any time, and this is important why we are here, because maybe in next 10, 20 years, no one will be able to enter the mine.
And all this history will be lost.
Yes.
Up next, the secret nerve center for the Nazi resistance.
It's a whole
Yeah,
floor, isn't it?
it is. Yeah, this is huge.
And later,
God, these things are just amazingly cruel, aren't they?
a brutal torture chamber deep beneath a medieval fortress.
The body of a prisoner was
Stretched.
stretched as a string on the wire.
The Charles Bridge was built starting in the year 1357, on the 9th day of the 7th month at exactly 5:31 a.m., because Holy Roman Emperor Charles IV was a strong believer in the power of numerology. On March 15, 1939, Nazi tanks rolled into the streets of Prague, unopposed. Hitler stood on Prague Castle and declared that the city was now under his control. But there were many in Prague who wouldn't surrender so easily. A mixed group of Czech army soldiers, communist rebels, and nationalists plotted a fierce resistance. And it all took place directly beneath the heart of the city, in an underworld engineered long before the Nazis ever got here.
Flooding of the Vltava River has always been a deadly threat to Prague. In 2002, the latest and largest flood on record struck. Its water level rose nearly past the Charles Bridge, and it devastated the city. Prague has been dealing with this problem since its beginnings, and 800 years ago, they took a drastic step toward a solution. They actually raised the entire street level of the city, effectively burying old Prague beneath new streets. But little did they know, the new foundations they created would soon become a dangerous underbelly of political intrigue, and one day, ground zero for the Nazi resistance.
And beneath these busy streets is where it all happened. By burying the original city to save it from natural disasters, a dark underworld emerged and played a key role in the bloody battle that began after Hitler stormed into town. I met with local guide Tom Tavaro, who agreed to take me into the underbelly of the city.
I'm good. And so this has always been, like I see it now, always a courtyard?
No. It was like a big place, but quite different, rather different, because the street level was originally 15 feet lower than it's now.
So if we sliced right down through here, what would we see beneath the streets?
We would see the ground floors of the original houses.
So beneath here is a whole other city, is beneath the streets of Prague.
Yeah, that's very typical for Prague.
It's typical for Prague, but in the 13th century, changing the street level to prevent floods was unheard of. And over time, these cavities took on a whole new role.
So the resistance, the World War II resistance, was inside this building in the underground.
Yeah, in the underground of the old town hall. This is our entrance to the underground. Yeah. Just push.
Very nice.
I'll open it and let's go.
22 feet beneath Prague's Old Town Hall is a dark, cavernous world. A world that just 20 years ago was shrouded in mystery. And 60 years ago was the nerve center used to fend off the Nazi juggernaut.
Oh, yeah. Wow. It's a whole floor, isn't it?
It is, yeah. This is huge.
I mean, with vaulted ceilings and everything down here.
Yeah, this is the basement of the tower. You must imagine that 69 meters high tower is above us now.
Right.
The massive tower was built as an addition to the Old Town Hall in the 14th century. But how can a medieval tower weighing hundreds of tons, as well as the modern city around it, not collapse into this massive cavity? When the city raised the streets to prevent flooding, it threw tons of earth and rubble into the cavities, then paved over the top, securing the streets and sidewalks. Arches and vaulted ceilings then were added to distribute the weight of the tower to the sturdier streets and sidewalks. The first levels of the houses, like the room I was in, became the basements and the headquarters for the Nazi resistance.
So all the first floors of all these houses suddenly became the basement.
Yeah.
The underground of Prague.
of Prague. Here we are like 7 meters, 20 feet below the current street level.
So I'm standing on what used to be the original street of Prague. Old Prague Street, the new Prague Street over our heads.
Yeah.
So is this window, this space here?
Yeah, that's the original window. Yeah, you can imagine that it was filled in later. When there was no need for a window on such level, when the street level was raised up.
The entire complex beneath Town Hall stretches 40 feet wide and 160 feet long, but it keeps going. Beyond that, dozens of rooms sit below 10 city blocks above.
Let's go to the next house.
Right. So this was another house over here.
Yeah.
They came through this wall and created a whole other extension of the town hall.
When resistance leaders needed a top-secret location to plan their attacks against the Nazis, this was the perfect place. But because Prague's loyalties were split, those who were on the side of the Nazis also would have known about this secret underworld. It was a constant game of cat and mouse. But this complex is just a fraction of the buried city. Much of it is blocked off or sealed up. But if we were to dig past these walls, we'd find an entire city buried by the modern one.
Look how it winds on here. It's like a catacomb of hallways. This thing just winds on, you know, through the centuries, really. And we're all, you can see how the age of things is marked by the stones that you walk through.
This vast labyrinth allowed the Nazi resistance a safe place to meet, hidden away from the watchful eyes of the Nazi soldiers up above.
This was the headquarters of the uprising at the end of the Second World War. There was meetings of the official organ, which was called like a council.
I see. So before that, they were secret cells throughout the city, and then they took refuge here in the final days in these underground rooms.
As Allied bombs rained down on the city and Nazi tanks rolled over the streets above, sleeper cells of the resistance met here and plotted a guerrilla war against the invading Nazis. And it worked. In May 1945, 30,000 Czech men and women fiercely battled for 3 days against 40,000 heavily armed German troops. After the bloody battle, the Red Army stormed into Prague. The Nazis were defeated, Prague was freed, and these subterranean rooms served as the nerve center of it all.
And you really get a sense in here of not only how this place is constructed, but the sense of history that's here.
Yeah. Everybody says you can feel it here.
Up next, the instruments of torture hidden beneath Prague Castle.
If I saw this, I would give up right away.
And later, Hitler's plan to unleash Armageddon. The subject of a popular Christmas carol, Good King Wenceslas, was a real historical figure in Prague. He was a 10th century Duke of Bohemia, well known for his good deeds. Today, he's buried at Prague Castle. The 7 long years of brutal Nazi rule left a deep scar in the hearts and minds of the people of Prague. And torture was one of the Nazis' most effective weapons. The Nazis were infamous for inflicting what they called enhanced interrogation on its dissidents, using brutal techniques like ice baths and stress positions. But in Prague, cruel and unusual punishment dates back well before the Nazis.
Through centuries of emperors, battles, fires, and floods, Prague Castle has seen it all. That medieval castle is among the biggest in the world, which means it's sitting on top of a lot of buried secrets. If those walls could talk, they'd tell the twisted tales of kings, confessions of their tortured prisoners.
Torture was around long before Hitler marched into town. And there's one room deep beneath Prague Castle where medieval prisoners awaited an unthinkable fate, in a secret chamber of torture and death. I met with František Kadle, a castle historian who was going to take me down.
Prague Castle has not only official part, but also this part, which is connected with criminality at the castle, because from the 15th century, this part served for prisoning.
The dungeon.
Yeah, the dungeon, yeah.
Yes, a dungeon entrance, huh? Oh, that's tight.
We are in a dungeon of Prague Castle.
Deep beneath the largest medieval fortress in the world, both men and women endured hideous torture. But they weren't ordinary prisoners. These cells here were reserved for the rich, and in the 16th century that meant they were the most influential and dangerous enemies of the crown. Torture was the most powerful tool in the monarchy's arsenal, and in medieval Prague they had many ways to make one talk, but one way trumped all the rest. It was called the violin.
The body of a prisoner was
Stretched.
stretched as a string on the violin. Yeah?
So was a violin the name of a violin used for this?
Yeah, for this instrument, for this torturing instrument.
Like the dreaded rack, these devices were meant to grab and pull human limbs as taut as a violin string, until they snapped.
So there must have been books about torture.
Yeah.
Specialists of torture.
Yeah.
Torture has been an accepted practice since the Roman times. And when Prague became the capital of the Holy Roman Empire in the 14th century, they kept up that tradition. In fact, a slave's testimony could only be accepted in court if it was extracted by torture. It was considered a legitimate way to obtain a confession, names of accomplices in murders and thefts, or the most dangerous threat to a monarchy, rebellion.
If I saw this,
Yeah.
I would give up right away. Forget about this. What happens? What happens?
Yeah. The fingers or legs was put under this press. Yeah.
And you would just turn this down.
Yeah. And at the last moment, these people started to
Talk.
Sure. Yeah.
Like with a vice, a captive's legs or arms were locked into a contraption like this, and the prisoner was left to carry the weight until the pain became unbearable.
Look at these instruments. I mean, how would this have been used?
Yeah, it was used when the prisoner was led to the court. It was given along his waist.
This was around their waist?
Yeah.
Points like a pit bull almost. Oh, I see. God, these things are just amazingly cruel, aren't they?
The techniques were cruel, but they were on par with the brutality of the times. And Europe in the Middle Ages was a dangerous place. Torture helped the empire keep tight control, and once they got the information they needed from their victims, they usually killed them anyway.
So this is a prison cell.
Yeah, this is
separate from what's up above.
Yeah. Exactly.
I get it.
Enemies of the state waited in these same rooms for as many as 10 years, and for some, the waiting was the worst torture of all.
In this space, there would have been many people.
Yeah, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 3 went around, and this one, in the level part of the dungeon, was prepared for the worst of them.
In the 1500s, this dungeon looked much different. Originally, the cells were closed off with wooden boards, leaving the prisoners very little room to move.
So these were cells?
Yeah.
These recesses in the walls?
Yeah,
I see.
yeah.
So I would have been kept in prison just inside
Yeah,
here.
you had only such a small space.
In the center of the room, dug 20 feet down, was a hole specifically engineered as solitary confinement. That was for the worst of the prisoners. Torture was typically performed by someone in the military, a loyal servant to the crown. They were considered specialists and often traveled from dungeon to dungeon to do the unthinkable. And when they entered this room, these prisoners, many of them falsely accused, knew this day could be their last.
So these were brutal times at this castle.
Yeah.
And they had to treat people as such, I guess.
Yeah, this is, I would say, another phase of the castle.
Yeah.
On one side, the residence of king, nobility, and on the other side, it was this part with prisoners suffering. And
So this was the darker side of
yeah.
the Prague castle.
Yeah.
Today, the Czech Republic is out of the shadow of its dark medieval history. But beneath the largest medieval castle in Europe, a castle where the president still governs to this day, sits one of its most brutal dungeons. Up next, when Hitler's twisted dream died, his backup plan was the apocalypse. Princess Libusz, the mythical mother of Prague, was said to bathe with her lovers inside a tower in Vyšehrad Castle before throwing them down to their deaths in the river below. The Richard Quarry was known as a Nazi weapons factory and possibly the hiding place for a legendary cache of Nazi gold. But another nearby quarry may hold an even darker, more deadly secret.
By early 1945, much of Europe was a bombed-out wasteland. As countless waves of Allied attacks forced Germany to its knees, Hitler was desperate. But it was rumored that he was holding a trump card, a secret doomsday device with the power to destroy all of Europe and possibly the world. Some say he'd hidden this ultimate weapon near Prague, just outside the city, in underground quarries known as America.
17 miles outside Prague are two limestone quarries called America. Believe it or not, they were named that because they resemble natural canyons found in the American West. The limestone quarried here helped to build the city of Prague. But when the Nazis stormed in and took over, these quarries helped fuel their war machine. Today, some of the mines are still active, but this one is strictly off limits, and the traces of its brutal past are still alive. And maybe, hidden deep within, is evidence of Hitler's plan to unleash Armageddon.
They call this place America, right in the middle of the Czech Republic. It's actually a quarry system that runs all through this region, and right under my feet. It was used by the Nazis, and it was used by the communists. This guy here is going to show me how.
Lucas Podis is a miner who works in the America quarry.
Hi, Don. How are you?
I'm good. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. I take you now to Prisoner's Quarry.
Prisoner's Quarry.
Yeah, Prisoner's Quarry.
Yeah.
Follow me.
All right.
Today, these mines are deadly. 2 to 3 people die every year down here, crushed by collapsing tunnels or killed when they fall into the quarry. But exploring this crumbling mine is the only way to find Hitler's last secret.
All right, thank you.
It's dangerous.
Sure.
Tunnel goes to Little America.
Just keep getting deeper and deeper in this mountain. How far are we in here?
We are now 60 meters under.
So like 180 feet down and 1,000 feet in. And this was a tunnel used by Hitler.
Like other quarries, America was retrofitted to be a weapons factory. But there are reports that a far more sinister weapon was being designed by Hitler's engineers.
Jeez.
The only way to actually get to the quarry was through this 2,000-foot tunnel, which runs into the belly of the mountain and out into this gargantuan man-made hole.
Yeah, that's quite a surprise, isn't it? So this is the quarry.
It's old quarry, with a lake.
Yeah, so it's filled up with water. Mm-hmm. All right. Coming from that dark tunnel into this, it's just spectacular, isn't it? It's a nice view now, but these tunnels would have looked much different 60 years ago when Nazi soldiers transformed this old quarry into a brutal weapons factory. The first quarries were dug in this region starting in the 1500s, and as more and more limestone and minerals were found here, more and more quarries sprung up. Over time, the region called America was filled with caverns, tunnels, and canyons, all man-made. But when the Nazis took over, they found a much more destructive use for America's limestone.
Limestone is good for make the iron.
Okay.
For Nazis was very important to make good iron for manufacture weapons.
So for weapons production, they were coming in here to get limestone for the making of iron. So they heavily mined this stuff, and this was a big part of their war production. In 1939, Nazi Germany began production on 9,000 Panther tanks. Each tank weighed 45.5 tons, most of it iron and steel. Here in the America quarries, slaves dug out the precious supply of limestone, which was pulverized and used in the smelting process that turns raw iron ore into solid iron and steel. So as Allied bombing raids buzzed overhead, prisoners here were worked to death, 100 feet beneath the surface. As the war dragged on and Germany began to suffer defeat, the Nazis may have found a new, even more disturbing use for these massive underground caverns. A top-secret doomsday device. Hitler wanted to find a hiding place where this special weapon, if it existed, could be kept in secret.
Here, Hitler soldiers hide some big weapon, but nobody
knows for sure.
Nobody knows it's true or a legend.
Right. But the rumor must have started from somewhere. So what was the doomsday device speculated to be? I mean, what did people think?
Maybe a bomb, maybe some other bomb, which now we don't know what is a device.
Some said Hitler's doomsday weapon wasn't to achieve victory, but total annihilation. The story goes that a secret device would shoot a nuclear warhead into the center of the Earth from a deep mine like America. Some scientists believe that the Earth's core is made mostly of uranium, the same material found in the atomic bomb. Hitler's scientists believe that their doomsday weapon could bore its way into the center of the Earth and ignite the Earth's volatile core. If he didn't win the war, the planet would be destroyed. If Hitler had a doomsday device, this would be the logical area for him to keep it, in these caves. It was in a stronghold of Europe. It was among many weapons production factories. So here, right in the center of Europe, might have been the doomsday machine. And maybe right even...
Maybe is here.
Yeah.
Maybe right here.
Some say the weapon could have been smuggled out of the tunnels at the end of the war, but others think it's still here, hidden somewhere in this massive quarry. The secret of the legendary weapon may have died along with the fall of the Nazis. The America mines continue to cave in on themselves, closing off tunnels and caverns, sealing in its dark past, and maybe Hitler's last secrets behind a wall of rubble. But this is just one small part of Prague's dark underworld, from quarries that were Nazi weapons factories and a hiding place for Hitler's doomsday device, to a 13th century subterranean city used as the underground headquarters by the resistance fighters who would eventually topple the Nazi regime. Since the Iron Curtain fell, more and more of Prague's dark